I am joined by Iceland's favourite dungeon tuber, one of my favourite dungeon tubers too. It's Dadi,
Hello.
whose name I can pronounce nicely because he's set it as a pronunciation guide in his Discord handle. So it's Dadi, not Dadi. It's a little soft.
That's true.
Yeah, I've been practicing. How are you, my friend? How is the world
I'm
today?
doing great. I'm doing fantastic. It's freezing cold in Iceland, so you called it cold open. It made the news how cold it is, which is unusual for this country because that's can't be a lot to talk about if we're talking about how cold it is, unless it's really really cold. Uh, but other than that, I'm doing great actually. I'm taking my producer, that means my girlfriend, told me that I had to take a February off and make sure that I didn't do too much broadsheet work. So I'm feeling reinvigorated. We've been watching James Bond movies, and I've been playing Europa Universalis. So I'm a new man.
Fantastic. What that says about your psyche and the sort of things we can expect from Mystic Art soon, if that's been your sort of creative input. It's going to be good. Love it. Today we are talking about how to build worlds that surprise you and how to... Well, you've got a lot to say on how you've built your world, and I'm plotting and scheming for my next actual play. So I think between us, we've got an interesting conversation. But let's start with how did you first go about building your mega world? Also, please introduce your mega world for the fools that don't know any Mystic Arts lore.
Every video I do, I'm sitting in front of like a huge map that's on my wall. That thing is taller than I am, and it's wider than I can reach with my arms. And it's the world's called Orathon. I've been running games in that thing for 10 years now. 11 years actually. And inside that world, we've got different sort of sub settings, like whether it's sort of more Viking-y or more cowboy-esque and all those kinds of things, and how they all play together. And one of those is a sort of Victorian era, Victorian values, industrialization setting called Atroxia. And inside that, there's a giant megacity called Blackguard, population of somewhere around 2 million people in this massive metropolis split across 31 boroughs, which may or may not be inspired by London.
London, mate, London.
London, innit?
See, that's the cold open.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've described that as flintlock fantasy, which I love. I love as that is already super evocative. I have a very strong feeling of how that's going to go down. How would you describe that to folks?
I mean, I tend to think of Atroxia as sort of existing in a number of different modes, and one of those is like if you're in Blackguard, it's Flintlock Fantasy by Gaslight. So it's creepy things in the rafters and scary stuff coming out of the sewers, and then the scariest monster of all, humans, and how they do evil for their own kind of worldview, as was very common in the Victorian era and still is today. But then you've also got sort of the more outback stuff, which is like what if Lewis and Clark on their journey fought owlbears and dragons, and then you've got that sort of game, and those are the kind of games I run in my setting at this point and have a lot of fun with.
What was the genesis of the world? How did you decide, I'll create a mega world rather than a different universe for every sort of campaign or one shot that you were doing?
I am lazy, actually. And what happened is that I sort of made a world and I ran a game in it. And it was very shallow. It was very like baby's first D&D world, and that was Atroxia. And it was complete with all the things you want: a large continent with several nations on it, a couple of island nations, and then an archipelago where all the fantasy species live. And then I go, that's it, done.
Yep.
And then I'm going to run a new game, and I thought, do I have to make all the gods up again? I don't want to do that. That was boring, and it was my least favorite part of world building. So I'm just going to use the same gods, and I'm going to say it takes place somewhere else, and I'm going to take this map, and I'm going to draw another continent. I'm going to expand the canvas in Photoshop, draw another continent. And then I did that, and then I ran games there. And then I started introducing a lot of new people to D&D, and I would just sort of use what I had at hand. Like, I'm not going to make a whole new world just to introduce, 5 of my friends to Phandelver or whatever. So I'll take Phandelver, I put it in my world, and then I don't need to learn any Forgotten Realms lore. And it wasn't, I think I'd been playing in this world for probably 5 or 6 years when, for the first time, two adventures I was running simultaneously happened to both feature a set of magic items, but only partially. So suddenly there was connecting tissue. And over time, I got excited by continuity. Like if you're reading Marvel comics or watching the MCU or stuff like that, I got excited by little cameos and Easter eggs. And for my own enjoyment, I just started making connecting tissue. And I started having hints for future adventures show up in this adventure, even though there were no cross players. But for me, I get to experience the narrative of the world shifting and moving. So I would sort of add stuff on nonstop and have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, a nice example I've had recently has come to light has been the obelisks in.
Yes.
I don't know, we've got Obelisk Gate happening as we're filming right now.
Obelisk Gate.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Who was it? Somebody made a fantastic video all about the obelisks before any of this happened, before Vecna Eva Ruben came out. And they predicted that Vecna would feature these obelisks.
Mm-hmm. For context, anyone who doesn't know, this is in the latter day D&D adventure books. There's been these black obelisks just up on the horizon, places you can visit with no obvious clue about what they do, and the fan theories started immediately. And I'll see if I can find that video. I'll link it if I can track it down, because I think I've seen it too.
So,
it was really interesting.
Bob, it's an older Bob Worldbuilder video. It's 3 years old at this point. It's got 130,000 views, and he's talking about this fan theory about these obelisks, and they showed up in Tomb of Annihilation. They showed up in several different modules, and then they were going to. It turns out he was right. Bob was 100% right. They just changed it last minute. He was robbed, I say. But yeah, no, exactly, and that sort of obelisk stuff, and there was a bunch of this in early 5e adventures that sort of inspired it a little. So, for instance, in Storm King's Thunder, there are frost giants searching for somebody called Artus Simper, and he doesn't show up in that adventure, but his uncle or brother or something shows up and is an NPC, and then Artus Simper is one of the main like party follower NPCs in Tomb of Annihilation, and has this ring of winter that frost giants are looking for. And I would see Watsy doing this stuff, and I'd be like, that's pretty neat. Why am I not doing this? And I would just sort of start making connections just for my own amusement. That's sort of where the Flintlock fantasy came from. A player played a gunslinger in that setting, and I was like, I guess guns exist in that setting. And then there was a 100-year time skip, and I'm like, I guess they're doing the Industrial Revolution. I don't know what else they'd be doing. And that just sort of goes logically on from there.
Yeah, I know you're a keen enjoyer of history and politics, to say the least. So finding the ways of bringing those into your games, I really love. My games are deeply political. Anyone who's played with me, it's not even subtle at this point.
Yeah, subtlety is for cowards. No. I love that stuff. I love talking about old history, and I love using phrases from modern politics and see how those things connect, because it turns out humans have been talking about the same stuff forever. You know the origins of the left and right wing?
Yes, I do. They were the wings of the two lobbies in Westminster in the UK Parliament, and the left, and the left wing tended to be. I think it was the Whigs. WHIGS was the sort of the old precursor of the sort of liberal parties. There's the Whigs and the Tories, who are the right wing, became sort of the Conservative Party, and they'd always vote differently. And you go into the left wing if you're on one side and the right wing on the other, and that just became the way it was, and then that's the way they sat in Parliament as well.
This is a fascinating thing, because there's another accepted answer, which is that it's the French, and that in, I think, the third or second or first republic, one of the early republics, the left wing was the bourgeoisie and the right wing was the aristocracy. And that was the thing then. So that's where, like, you would But obviously, different countries are going to have different answers to this stuff, right? But this is so fascinating. It's always been like this.
It's just like everyone's got their own origin story for where they think these things come from. Like, like the cool S that you drew in school. You might just.
But we all drew that cool S.
Yeah.
It's all the same. No, so I'll go grab characters from history. I just straight up put Winston Churchill in my game.
Amazing.
And I'll go run them, and then it turns out that Winston Churchill's up to no good because he believes certain people are worth less than other people. A real thing Winston Churchill believed, and then people start associating that character in my setting with modern political characters. But I'm not talking about that. And the same happened with Andor. The creator Armando. The creator of Andor talked about the idea that people are now associating his show with modern American politics. And he said, listen, we made this all several years ago, and we weren't talking about whatever you think we're talking about. We were talking about Nazi Germany or communism. And now people are here drawing these more modern analogies.
I do enjoy seeing, especially like fairly modern shows that turn out to be super prescient. I was chatting to someone this morning talking about Years and Years, which is like
Russell T Davis's
yeah, or even like I watched V for Vendetta again recently. I was like, oh no, oh no.
Right. I get this all the time now. I watched No Time to Die just yesterday with my girlfriend. It was her first time watching, she's now seen all the Bond movies. I'm sorry, babe. And we had a blast. And I remember when Spectre was the main bad guy of the James Bond franchise. And I remember thinking, that is so far-fetched, this collection of elite billionaires who seem to control the world no matter where they are. Nobody knows who they are, and they just can do whatever they want. That
doesn't sound real.
Fantasy.
Yeah. God, I'm sure glad the real world's nothing like that.
Right? And then when I was watching No Time to Die yesterday, I was like, good God, and here they are in Cuba all having a party in like tuxedos and...
I was at a country house yesterday. That's the circles I roll in. I walked there from my flat, which so it's in the east end of Glasgow. It's a place called Provan Hall. But if you've ever been to like any historical place, it's always like the notice boards. I absolutely love just finding named people on those and then making them into NPCs. One that I had yesterday, and I've actually got it on my phone here. This is I took a photo of it. Francis Hamilton, a very enthusiastic, wrong-headed man. That is how this guy is described through as this sort of historical. This is the enduring memory of poor Francis Hamilton, born in 1626. Oh no. Famous for writing a poem in 1626 dedicated to James VI. He basically just lost all his money and died a pauper in 1645, and then he had to sell all the property got sold, and it's just wonderful. But that kind of I would not choose to make that up. Like, as a enthusiastic, wrong-headed man, probably isn't at the top of my list of sort of characters just to pull and bring into the world. So just... I love that kind of inspiration that we can grab from absolutely anywhere in the real world. And the temptation to use present day people is strong, but history has so much to mine, and especially seeing how people's reputations warp and change over time is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and when you're running long-term games or games over many campaigns, you can have these characters that start out as heroes, and then they have that sort of Dark Knight turn. And like with Wallace Credge, my version of Winston Churchill, it depended on what adventure we were playing, whether he was the arch villain or the arch ally. And people would have wildly different opinions. The same player would have wildly different opinions of the guy. But everything he said and did was in character, was all for this goal of winning the war, right? So, and he had these strong foundational beliefs that made him good at that. But you get to watch him change over time until he was eventually beheaded by dwarves. Obviously,
obviously. Yeah, that sounds about right. I suppose that is very much, you can die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That's very cool. And I think the difference is the ability to play the same character at different parts of their life and see, especially if your players are in on it as well, saying the tragedy of this man's life unfold is lovely. Yeah.
I have a blast with a different political character, but there's the revolutionary who was sort of responsible for tearing down the empire in Atraxia. Her name is Celia Powell, and the players have often viewed her as a radical, as somebody who is like very left wing, very progressive, but also violent at times. And now we're playing 27 years later after she succeeded, and she's been in opposition for ages, and she's back in politics, a lot like Winston Churchill. And now she's a conservative because she succeeded, and she got to do what she wanted.
Yeah.
And therefore, any changes to what she wants is, to her, radical, and therefore she has become the conservative.
So countering the status quo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
And now she's this kind of stick in the mud, and they're like, what happened to this woman? And you're like, this is the arc of politicians.
Sold out, man. Used to be about the music. And
exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever seen or read The Dictator's Handbook, Rules for Rulers? I first came across this. It was a CGP Grey video.
Yes.
I've
seen that one.
Yeah, but the book itself is wonderful. But it's all about the idea that what you need in order to have a successful revolution is not the same things as what you need to stay in power. And to have a revolution, you just need to persuade the army and the police to be on your side and not point guns against you. But to stay in power, you need to pay the army and the police and all these other sort of keys of power to not just depose you. And depending on if you want to be a nice democratic person or an absolute tyrant, depends on how many individuals you need to keep happy in order to not pick the other guy who's, as soon as you take power, is already plotting against you. It's really depressing because it does apply to everything from sort of the like the local neighborhood watch right up to sort of monarchies and kings and all sorts.
It's realpolitik. It is just this. It's the Henry Kissinger worldview, right? That is cold and mean, but also those people tend to win because they aren't thinking in terms of ideals, right? They're thinking in terms of how to win.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed in that video because they said, hey, what if you want to be a ruler and you'll do better, won't you? Yes, you idealistic person who'll make things great for everyone. And it's like, well, here's the reality check. Here is how this would actually go down. Thinking through this, it's very kind of game theory, that very I win, you lose. What's the best way to actually sort of progress?
Maintain, change, I love depicting powerless leaders. I think we overestimate how much people can do once they come into several institutions, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to go right for the tyrant in order to do tyranny, but also there's a lot of stuff that can easily go wrong for someone who wants to go high when everybody else wants to go low. And this is the same force, and it's realpolitik, and it's just what happens when you're trying to like play the game, the Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, when you die, or you or you crouch down in the back of a cab with haunted eyes.
God, we are going to be political on this.
Oh, it's such an amazing photo. I was reading an article like comparing it to The Scream by Munch. So wow.
God, they're not shaking the vampire allegations. I'll say that much.
If I'm feeling very nice, I will put it on screen, because if someone's watching this in a while's time or from somewhere else in the world, you probably will have it. It's probably gone around the world. That's an incredible thing.
What times we live in.
Yes. To digress slightly, other methods of building your world. So stealing, number one, I absolutely love it. Number two that I've got on my list is using randomization, grabbing tables, grabbing sheets and things like that to give yourself, when you are sitting with a blank page in front of you, just to narrow the options down, collapse the waveform, if we're being scientific, of the possibilities.
Deny yourself some options.
And the seed of creativity comes from limitation. How much do you do that kind of thing?
Oh, a lot. I tend to start by what can't this be?
Hmm.
I wanna go make something. I'm gonna add a nation. Or I'm gonna add a kind of magic or something. I'm gonna put a new ruler here, but I've got too many kings. Everybody's a king of something, and I've used the feudal typical English titles, duke and earl, and those. So I'm not gonna use those. So what can this guy be? And then I'll go on a thesaurus or something, and I'll go sultan, Maharaja, or okay, what other options do I have? And I'll try and think in terms of the limitation of I can't call this guy a king. Um, I made a leader of a dwarven nation recently, and I was like, I can't call him prime minister, I can't call him king, I can't call him president. He's going to be the premier of Venkara. And now I'm like, okay, that feels different. It feels like I can call him the premier, and now it's like that's him. Um, I do that a lot. What was hang on? You made me think of something, and then I lost it.
It's on your ceiling. It's directly above you.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Somewhere up there. That's
Yeah.
where I keep my notes.
You missed a cards?
Yeah, drawing maps and the whole script I have here for the live stream. The drawing maps, for instance, is a great way to sort of start limiting options. Oh, yes, I read a lot of Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is I'll find a subject I get fascinated in, and suddenly I'm on the Wikipedia page for Francis Bacon, and I'm like, let's see all about this guy. And then I'm reading about the British old party divide, or what was I? One thing I was reading, I'm trying to remember the prime minister who ended slavery
in Britain.
In Britain.
Ooh,
lost on me.
I should know. I do not. I also know it wasn't an immediate thing, as over the course of a little while.
Charles Grey, second Earl Grey.
Famous for tea as well, so Earl Grey.
Yes, exactly. This guy's fascinating. And what was especially fascinating that I discovered while reading the Wikipedia article for Charles Grey, and I didn't do anything world build wise based off of Charles Grey, but I discovered that in the 1700s, who was in charge of the cabinet were positions appointed by the monarch. And the prime minister was more advisory back then, and the titles were more monarch-like. And then if you go to somebody like Winston Churchill, he was the First Lord of the Admiralty.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere around the Second World War, First World War, these things start to change until we get to the modern system where the monarch is not involved in this at all, except for like sort of rubber stamping the parliament's appointees.
And writing lots of letters.
Yes.
Yeah, black spider memos. It's the whole thing. Which I mean, just that right there, that is the most stealable. That's a super evocative little line. Yeah, black spider memos. Yeah, that was Charles in his Prince days, writing something like 15 letters a day to sort of whoever was in government.
Were they?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with this.
But he's very, very, very engaged in politics and had an opinion on everything, from sort of aromatherapy to wild animal introductions and stuff like that. He's very, very involved. In theory, he's stopped now, but we'll never know.
No. But that became sort of a fascinating thing. Because I was thinking about how systems of government change, and now I've got this sort of question about like when do they cycle out the titles? Because the English Civil War put way more power into the hands of like Cromwell and Parliament, and now I just don't know. So I go reading, and then you start seeing these titles, you start seeing when they change, you start seeing the laws that pass around it, and you start to get an understanding of how something used to work. And then what that does for me is it creates a fruitful ground for creation. Now, if you get bored by all that stuff, if you're somebody who goes online, you go try and read this stuff because I'm talking about it here, and you go, this bores me to death. I'm certain there is a thing that you can engage with that gets you excited in that way, whether that's mythology and reading about Hercules or the Greeks and Heracles and that kind of stuff. And now suddenly you're getting inspiration from that.
Yeah,
just to sort of create the garden of your thought, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So many of my ideas tend to be, oh, what if that, but also this. And one of the best bits of advice I ever heard in sort of when using random tables, was a Mike Shea one, just says roll twice. find a way of combining them.
Yeah.
It's cool if you're rolling for an encounter. Say you go, okay, there's goblins on the road. That's fine. Roll again, and there's an owlbear. Now you've got an interaction the party can walk into.
Right.
And well, are the goblins captioned about owlbear? What's going on? Is the owlbear absolutely tearing apart?
Trained?
Yeah, who knows? But that,
are they fighting it?
And yeah, you're asking questions, and that really helps get things spinning. And you can apply that to every level of your world building. What if this, but also that.
Yeah, and just ask questions. Like I'll do it out loud. It doesn't matter if somebody's in the room with me or not. I'll just start saying out loud, is it this or that? Or is it both? Or is it somehow, and if I can't do this, what am I doing with it? Because for me, it's just about creating that sort of space where you feel okay not knowing stuff. Because if you get anxious when you don't know stuff, you're never going to figure it out because you're in a rush to get it all out of the way. You kind of have to love the garden of not knowing and look at all the stuff you have and all the toys you want to play with and think about which one excites you and that kind of thing.
Yeah. How much do you improvise at the table?
Oh, heaps and heaps. It's so much. I tend to do a lot of world building for the stuff that I don't feel comfortable in making up, and that's different depending on the adventure. And sometimes it's political structures or geography, or sometimes it's the plotting of the bad guys. At one point, I remember getting up out of bed in the middle of the night to go write a note about what the bad guys were up to in my living room. And then I came back and Abby's just like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, this thought wasn't going to leave until I got it out of there. But then when things start rolling, I'm okay adding stuff to that plot. I'm okay, changing who the main characters are, playing the shell game, moving the encounters around, or just inventing something new from scratch. I do that all the time. I'll run entire dungeons where I haven't had a single thing prepped. I just know what I want it to be about. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's sort of getting to be zen with your ignorance, and then you just see what that gets you.
Yeah, I had the pleasure. I was running some Daggerheart last night, and I could have prepped things. I had time, but I chose not to, and thought, can I just do this entirely based on the characters my players are coming to the table with?
Yeah.
And I love that challenge. It's you have to be very present and very active listening to catch the little details and say, oh yeah, it was a twin. Right, where's the sibling now? Yeah. So the game that we ran, I actually used, if I use another good world building thing as well, there's something called the Dakuma deck. It's by Golden Lasso Games. It's a tarot deck, but it's got loads of connection questions. It's got things like, our party had a successful adventure in this location. What did we find? But what was the complication? And these are blanks that the players will fill in. So that I really like that collaborative world building, especially at the table. If I'm coming up with a more structured campaign or something, I'll do that stuff myself and just sit with them and go, ooh, that's a new direction to take my thoughts. And regardless of sort of whether you believe in tarot and the sort of power of it or not, as a way of, like you said, organizing your thoughts and realizing what things are not, it's a very good way of thinking. And it's got connections
to trim the creative scope.
And to answer a very specific question, which is way more specific than you might have asked at that point in your development. But I then asked the party some of these sort of questions as well, and the adventure almost became organic out of that. The party decided they were folk heroes, but they were left behind as the war had moved off the front line, had sort of moved away into over the horizon, and that was such a fun setting for me to then start playing in. And as the game
sorry, go
on. And as the game progressed, I then managed to find ways of connecting them to that front line and to show that, they could be heroes after all, they could get there, but it'd be tricky and problematic. And then there was an evil demon that turned everything just to flat grey sand, which was very fun, just destroying bits of the world.
Evil demon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. With the broadsheets, we wanted to service both. So we would, because I love getting my hands on something that I don't have to make up. So we put into each issue, we put one adventure at the front, which is going to be super detailed, everything you need to know. Here's what's in the pockets of all the NPCs and all that kind of stuff. And the first one, for instance, has a 10-minute intervals for this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And the whole adventure is designed to get you tense. But then in chapter 2, there's a burrow gazetteer, and in there are 12 like quest seeds. And those are very basic, and they are meant to do that sort of hem the creativity in kind of thing where you read a handful of them are about a protection racket run by a werewolf called the Full Moon Gang. And those guys are like harassing shopkeepers. And you can go to their house, and then there's just a note that says, by the way, this is an adventure for you to make. You're going to have to make a 5-room dungeon or something. And we put some guidance in there on what kind of stat blocks you can use. But we wanted to serve both so that players have the option, or DMs have the option of like, if they like making stuff up, here's the way to do that with this setting. Or if you just want something completely ready. Because I do both when I'm running for myself. Sometimes I'll go really into the weeds and I'll create the crap out of some setting or module or dungeon or something. And other times I just do what you're talking about there. You go find some prompts and you're like, let's figure out, let's see what happens. Some of the best sessions I've ever ran started with me going, hey guys, I don't have anything tonight, so this might just be a 2-hour session. And then those are the best 5 hours that we've ever played. Like,
yeah. There's the dichotomy. I'm on good words today. I've had some coffee. We're on form.
Yeah.
The dichotomy of the top-down and bottom-up world building.
Yeah.
And something like, hey, why do you think they have, I don't know, you can take a detail of, why do you think they have so many different kinds of rocks, so many different kinds of stones in their jewelry in the market? That's an incredibly specific question, but that can lead you, so if that's a bottom-up question, that can lead you to so many places. Do you do much of the top-down stuff of saying, I've got a continent, what's in here, and sort of compress it down as well?
I want it to be like table tennis. I want to ping pong from bottom up to top down, and I want to go click 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 and try and get the ball bouncing as much as I can, because that's when it becomes holistic for me, if that makes sense. So for instance, I've been playing a lot of Europa, and one thing that game does is
incest.
No, that's CK. There's
my mistake.
Yeah. No, Europa does this thing where it measures certain stats and it calls them hegemony. So it says this nation is a military hegemony, and it's got 5 of these: military, naval, cultural, diplomatic, economic. And then whoever is the hegemon of a specific field gets a feature, like a character, like an RPG character. So for instance, if you're the military hegemon, that means you have the largest standing army in the world, and that means you can violate sovereignty without starting a war. And seems realistic to me. But that made me think, who in my world is the military hegemon? And who in my world is the naval one? And that's very top down. I'm thinking there's a concept and there are nations and who fits into each of these slots. Made a whole list of them just so that I could have them in my head, so that I could think grand strategy, geopolitics. And then on the flip side, what I'll do is I'll have a real good think about, this person is, divorced, or why this political party split. It's because these two people they used to be together. They don't like each other anymore. And I'll go really granular and how that's rippled out into the national stage.
Yeah.
And think about the people involved. I'm always talking about, there was a video I uploaded talking about the difference. I mentioned briefly, I didn't talk about this, the difference between plot and story. And good narrative is when these both sort of loop constantly, like a DNA weave, right? But story is what's going on in the person's head, their emotions, their heart and stuff, and plot is what's going on in the, with the bad guys or whatever. For instance, in No Time to Die, that first cold open, the plot is Spectre is coming back to betray Bond, but the story is Bond is reliving that time Vesper betrayed him.
Yeah.
In Casino Royale. And now he's letting that ruin his relationship with Madeline Swan. And those two things have now created this narrative beat where it just is a spectacle, but it feels sad. And they're getting shot at, and he's not reacting.
Yeah.
And now you've got this two sort of playing
that's
together.
interesting. That's much more interesting than, I don't know, Mission Impossible, where Tom Cruise is running, and he's just, if you have the character's emotions perfectly in tune with the story beat, you're gonna, it can be good, it can be dramatic, it can be awesome, but it's gonna be one-dimensional. Something I've been really trying my best to do for my actual play games, which are coming very soon. It's a 10-shot actual play in Dreams and Machines, which is it's a sci-fi, but it's a lowish tech one. Describe it as trash punk is a good name for the genre. Imagine like the humans came back to Earth at the end of WALL-E, and you're not a million miles away. Different timeline, different setting and stuff. But awesome. Yeah, kind of like Numenera actually as well, the Cypher System setting. Yeah. But in that one, the vague sort of overarching plot is the characters are a group of teenagers. They're going out into the world. They're trying to find a way of saving their village because they were mostly responsible for setting off an EMP device which knocked out all the power. In their defense, it was being attacked by giant robots, but with the power failing, they don't have enough to save the village. Things are going to get very bad very quickly. So our young heroes are going out into the world, find a MacGuffin, come back again, save the day. There may or may not be a giant robot under the scrapyard waiting for them. We will see.
Giant robot.
It's totally a giant robot. Yeah, it's totally a giant robot. Yeah. But that's the plot. The story is the relationships between the characters. I've deliberately made them teenagers. These are not fully formed, mature people. So when I was doing character creation with them, I said, okay, who's jealous of someone else in the party? Who is attracted to someone in the party? And that has made so many great moments. And we had a session we filmed last week where one character's infatuation with the other was outed by an NPC in the best fashion possible, and it was a really nice moment because the way Ryan, one of the players, reacted to it, even though like in the world there was this like really good, it's very much, hey, we're going on an adventure vibe, everything is great. They saw the world in an incredibly different way of like, oh, everyone's judging me, everyone thinks I'm weird, but hormones confused, and that story is so much fun. And when you juxtapose, when you have the character arcs going up and down, and that's out of sync with the main arc of the plot, you end up with these like Pyrrhic victory, where things are going great but you feel terrible, or you find that nugget of hope in defeat because, oh, at least we're friends, or the party's been defeated but they're all on the same page. And that's where it gets very... the graph of it would be amazing. I'm not going to, for once in my life, I'm not going to do a spreadsheet of this, but
this shows up in Aristotle's Poetics. I think it's called the cost or something like that, and that's that victories are followed by defeats or preceded by them, and vice versa. There's a bit in the West Wing where they're talking about attacking some terrorist leader, and the president's grappling with this decision. And when he finally gives the order to have him executed on foreign soil, at the same time, this character, that this Secret Service agent that the press secretary has been falling in love with in a separate arc, suffers a terrible tragedy and dies. Spoilers for the West Wing.
People have had time. It's a full 10, 15 years old at least.
This is 2002. It's old.
20. Oh no, 24. Yeah. Let's not think about that.
No, the show's too hopeful to have come out anywhere other than when it came out. So that tragedy is paired with that terrible decision he makes. So because he commits a sin, in Aristotle's words, there is punishment for it, and that's these left and right things you can play with. And as a DM, you can do all this kind of stuff. I did a literally very similar thing in my level 1 to 20 campaign that I played for 6 years, when they won their biggest battle of the wars, when they suffered all their most personal defeats because the bad guy went after their families in retribution. Yeah, and they knew that was probably going to happen.
But they did it anyway
They did it anyway.
Yeah, for the greater good.
Yeah,
Yep.
And they were like, we can't let them stop us. We have to do it. And they got one last warning, and then it happened. And they concluded this was the dumbest thing he did, because now they had nothing to lose, and they would never go back to their families. So it's that sort of give and take, and it became this kind of tragic moment. But it was also this: I guess we really are going to change the world now.
Yeah.
Lends weight to the proceedings.
Pathos.
Pathos, yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Not one of the Three Musketeers, I found out. So Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, with D'Artagnan as the... Oh,
wow.
You okay?
Deep cuts. I was telling somebody the other day not to put a Matrix reference in their thumbnail. It's too dated. But here we are talking about West Wing and the Three Musketeers and Aristotle.
Yeah. How much do you collaborate with your players when it comes to campaign setting and sort of the wider world building? Is that all you, or do you let them in sort of behind the curtain?
I tend to think of myself as the author of my world, and I think the players tend to like that there is an arbiter, and that makes it so that it seems more believable, because it is, oh, it's not this world, he knows these answers. However, I tend to do a lot of what I would call sort of Socratic world building, in which I'll ask questions that I don't know the answer to, and I'll listen to their response. And sometimes I'll do this in character, out of character, at the table, or just at a dinner party or something. Like that thing I was talking about with the hegemonies earlier. I was thinking about this for a long time, and I just sort of started asking my players, what do you think? What do you? And they all gave very different answers with good logic behind them. And then I tried to sort their worldviews into what I considered to be objective fact. But all of their worldviews were true based on what they had seen over the course of playing in the campaign. And now that it had been solidified, it gets to be more canonized. I do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the risk is their ideas will be better than what you already have, and then you've got to, which is a great thing to have. Oh, thank you for stealing this. This is mine now.
Yeah. I do
there.
that.
Yeah,
I do that. That totally happens. But I try not to be too overt about it, because I don't want them to clam up or anything like that. So I try and remain cool about the whole thing and be like, who knows?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, your character certainly thinks that.
But I have great fun with that.
Yeah, something I've been absolutely loving recently is doing collaborative world building, but not with the players who are in the campaign. This has made me very, very happy recently to discover. So my plan is sometime in the summer, maybe later in the year, I'm going to be starting a big actual play campaign, like minimum 20 sessions. The full fantasy works either in D&D or Daggerheart or another good system. But for the world building, I've decided that I want to start by getting some help to do it from the absolute top down. And there's a game which came out last year. It's just called Playing God, where it's kind of PvP. It's kind of collaborative. It's mostly a sort of group story game where each character, each player takes on a god, takes on a deity with the domains that they might have. So there's like god of death, god of chaos, god of harvests and family and farming and stuff. God of storms, god of chaos, god of chance. Each player picks one of those, and then you get to make stupidly huge moves. You want to make a planet? You want to make a plane of reality? Poof, you do it. No questions asked. And you play through, and you get there is a mechanic for sort of belief points and history points and stuff to figure out who's winning or not. I'm not so interested in that, in just the story that comes with it. So if you want to make any action, I was asking my players, hey, why does the god of trickery, James, DM with a J-Dub, why do you want to make a moon? And it's like, well, I need my own place. I need somewhere where I can be free of these other losers. And I think the correct word is capricious.
Yeah.
That the players got so into being there very specifically. They just embodied that kind of embodied their domain, embodied who they were, and deciding to have a private moon for the god of trickery. I guarantee would not have been on my thing if I was to start with a blank sheet of paper and say, all right, I'm designing this world for myself. But then the interactions that they had with each other, God of Death, God of Death managed to kill the God of Travel and took the domain. So now the God of Death is the God of Travel. And
Okay.
yeah,
Because
and
travel's dangerous in this world.
yeah. Well, it's the journey might kill you, but it might get you, it might be rebirth and new life as well. Another thing that happened, which was so good, because there's random cards you pull from a deck of not many things, but a deck of big dramatic events.
Deck of some things.
Yeah, deck of huge stuff. Permanent DM pulled the World Eater snake. Pulled Jormungandr in turn number two of the game, and suddenly this whole thing, like, okay, we can kind of see where this is going, completely upended, because it changes so many things about the game, changes so many things about the world. But what I'm doing next is I'm going to run a second Age of Gods. So these were the original gods, and now millennia later we're going to have a second time where the gods are acting and making stuff happen. My players in that game are going to know partially what happened before, but they're still going to be just as powerful and can build more stuff. And that mix together of sort of each age of the gods is going to create this incredibly, to be honest, overcomplicated pantheon going on. But so much layered history that if a player comes into this place, oh, it's a temple. Oh, it's not to one of the new gods, it's to one of the old ones, but we don't have any records of this because it's lost in the mist of time, and there'll be so much depth to the sort of exploration that they could do.
I did a little bit of like play-by-post with one of the players. So we finished that 1-20 campaign over 6 years, and then that player retired, and the rest of the group went and did a sequel campaign, but that player didn't want to join it. So those players, we invited AB to that group, and we had a group of 7. A reasonable number, I thought.
I think so, yeah.
But I said, would you like to continue playing your level 20 character? While they're all going to go make first level characters, and we're going to time skip 27 years, would you like to play through those 27 years? Because your character was going to go into politics. So he got to decide a lot of the sort of political landscape over the course of his sessions. Now, I had sort of big beats laid out because I needed the world to be in a certain interesting state by the time the new main D&D group comes along to play in it. But there was a lot of empty space that I didn't know about, so I figured, well, let's put that up to him. And that was fascinating because you get to do this sort of top down, bottom up at the same time. Like he's being a person thinking about his wife and his kids and stuff because he's now retired. He's no longer an adventurer. But at the same time, he's thinking about the shapes of nations and the changing geopolitical landscape and how trying to prevent another war from starting and the sacrifices he makes along the way. And it ended up with him getting to play with the rest of the party. So that group of 7 split up into 2 different adventures, and I invited guest characters, 1 for each group. And he got to play with half the party as his level 20 character. They were all 5th level at that point. And it culminated in the tragic death of his character.
Nice. A heroic sacrifice or not so much? Yeah.
Yeah, heroic sacrifice. And started the next war.
Brilliant.
So it was like you couldn't have asked for a more perfect thing, and it was all just dice roll and player choice. And like I had a setup that I thought was pretty brilliant. And then my session notes, I ran out of session notes at, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Played for another 2.5 hours just with what I had set up to see where they were going to go. And some of the most poignant stuff I've ever got to do was that session. Then it was brilliant. Like, and that's just sort of it's the stuff I love about Black Art. Why I want to make it into a thing you can read, because it's got, to me, it feels so real. It's, I know it's calendar and it's birthdays and the individual factions and figures. I love the detail of it, but I also love the grand scope and scale. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
Nice. Couple of speed round questions. Love a speed round. Here we go. What is the biggest surprise that you've given yourself when world building?
I ran a game of Microscope with my players, and we sat down and we sort of, I was like, listen, we got a 3-year war ahead of us. I don't know what's going to happen in it. And I decided to just let us all figure it out together. And some of the most fascinating world building has come out of that. The Atraxian Civil War among them, which is very much defined in the broadsheets as the sort of shadow that looms overhead. Stuff like that, yeah.
Nice. What has gone exactly to plan? Where you've built something and it's just worked like clockwork, and your players have maybe discovered it in just the way you expected.
My hex crawl, I like set up a big hex crawl map, and I created a system for excursion resting and these 3-mile hexes. And then I told my players, let's give this a go. And I've tried hex crawl several times. I thought we'd do 3 sessions of it and then I'd toss it. But right now we did a whole political arc, and then they were all like, I cannot wait to go back to crawl through hexes and do 5-room dungeons and get loot from slaying big monsters. Like, it is so basic, but it was awesome.
Love it. What's disappointed you when you've tried a bit of world building or to bring something in and it's just not worked?
I did a multi-planner campaign set in like the elemental planes, and I evoked a lot of language from mythology stuff like Babylon or Surtur. I know Babylon's real, but like these sort of words that have meaning to us. And I thought that I could therefore lend meaning to my setting, and it was very evocative. But the campaign I ran was kind of dog shit, and it just went down the toilet. It was god awful. One day I'd like to build out my multiverse and figure it out again, but I'm going to need some time to figure out how I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Follow-up question on that. How did you end that? How did you communicate, hey folks, this isn't working, to your players?
I tried to save it. I gave it the DM equivalent of CPR twice. I pivoted hard in the second month of the campaign, so that was session 4, and I let them plan out the adventure. And they brought back the most boring plan that I could have possibly thought of. And then none of them were available for a couple of months. And then I said, actually, we're going to do it with guest players, because the party dynamic wasn't working either. Like, the players were just not gelling. So I brought in guest players, and then we're going to play each arc in each elemental plane. And then that wasn't working. And then we did one of those where the sort of villain showed up, and they were on the wooden ship, and it was a fire giant, and they decided, let's ram him. So he takes no damage because he's immune to normal damage because he's a god, and then he sets their ship on fire because it's a wooden ship and he's made of fire. And then they all went, we run away. So eventually I just sent them a big text message, and I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I've tried and I've tried.
It's not you, it's me. I've really thought about it. So I'm going to take some time to myself to really get to know myself before a big wall of text. Love it.
You can give it CPR a couple of times, but at some point you got to pull the ripcord, man.
Next one, courtesy of my friend Nathan, who is one of your Patreons, a big fan of the broadsheet as well.
Hello, Nathan.
He was asking, how do you keep things fresh for a long campaign, especially as characters are high level? What do you do to mix things up and keep it interesting and compelling for folks who've been in characters and in a space for a long time?
I think I had a lot of success within that 6-year campaign is that I would offer the party substantive change. They were never doing one adventure the whole time. That 6-year campaign really was 6 campaigns, each of which had several adventures in them. And whenever we got back after playing for a year, we took break over Christmas and we came back, everything was going to be different. We were going to go to different locations, see different characters.
Would it be time skipped as well, or?
Yeah, it would often have time skips in it. And I changed the format. So like we did a whole arc, and then we did the microscope thing, and then we played through individual events in that microscoped out thing, But another thing is I would often offer the characters change. For instance, one character was playing a warlock, and they went on a quest with their patron, and their patron died.
Ooh.
And then they tried to escape, and they couldn't, and they died, and they were reincarnated. And they said, since this was a mirror plane or something that I went into with my patron, I want to be an Echo Knight, a fighter. And I'm completely different, and I use these mirrored reflections of me to fight because I learned something new And now they're a new class, playing a character with a new status quo, a new central conflict in their head. But it's the same person. But it's a completely different play experience. Another one was a warlock who I think changed their patron 3 times. She would sign new deals. She would try and make it work.
Nope, not interested. Yeah,
no, back out. Ooh, oh, figure this one out. Nope, not interested. And she got to play a whole cadre of characters. Another one was playing this barbarian who eventually became paladin barbarian, who then died. Then he played a bard for a bit until they resurrected the paladin barbarian, Lazarus.
Good name.
And then he became a.
What was that? Hang on, what was that really the name of the person beforehand? Before they got reincarnated?
He died a lot. His name was Lazarus. He died like 30 times,
nice.
Which naturally meant that he just no death was treated permanent until he died at the end, and then he died forever.
Yeah, excellent. I have a peace lily called Lazarus. It dies every single time I go away or on holiday or something. It's just gone. Always comes back. Love it.
Oh, yeah, nice. But yeah, he comes back as barbarian paladin, starts taking level in sorcerer, starts losing levels in paladin, starts losing levels in barbarian. Eventually, is a 17 sorcerer, paladin 13. So that character, while it's the same person the whole time, the character sheet is nothing alike. Same with I'd give them weapons like artifacts, and over time, they realized the artifact was better for somebody else in the party, so they'd trade them in or they'd swap them. So the character, the person they're playing is the same person going through all of this, but the character they're playing is molding and shifting. So they're never getting character fatigue either. And if they did, they can come to me and say, hey, listen, I want to change things around. I'm like, yep, let's work with it.
Yeah, nice. Last speed on question. Is there anyone you'd like to pay it forward to? Other creators or just things you think are cool you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, God, there's so many. You mentioned James, DM with a day job. He did a fantastic video recently called What If Your Players Don't Speak Fantasy? And people should watch that video. It's excellently edited. He's put in a ton of work. It's got like sketches and all that sort of stuff. And he's talking about a very pertinent thing, which is that the stuff you take for granted, your players might not. And how do you cross that bridge if they don't speak the language you're speaking? They're not familiar with the genre. So do yourselves a favor. Go check out James, DM with a day job.
It'll be linked below down there somewhere. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Very nice. A wonderful god of trickery as well. That video is coming sometime soon. I'm not quite sure when that's getting released, but it's awesome. that's a delight. Dadi, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a genuine pleasure. Yeah. Shall we wave so fast it's blurry at the cameras?
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, go.